Welcome to the FunnelStory Podcast. Today's my guest is Shriki GIlad, who is the founder of Descope and earlier was the VP of Customer Success at Palo Alto Networks. So Shriki, why don't you tell me your story in your own words?
Sounds good. So I'll start with saying people call me Shriki. My first name is GIlad, but I go by Shriki, so that's fine. So I'm actually started as a software developer back then in the Israeli military. But then I moved through different milestones. So I've been a little bit of a software developer. Then I went to become a product manager, worked for McAfee, and then I switched to customer success or services, the entire services organization in Descope. And then when we were acquired by Palo Alto Networks, I basically took over the VP of customer success for the Cortex lines of business. So I think throughout the time I realized I like working with people than compilers. So I've been through like developer, product manager, and services, and really what I like working is with customers and enabling them and educating them to use products.
So that's a decade. So if I count it like McAfee around 2011, 2015 or 16 around when you went into Descope, and then 2019 you got acquired into Palo Alto Networks. So 3 years at Palo Alto Networks.
Yes.
So those were like you started as a product manager and then you were doing at a startup at a long tenure and suddenly you are in a very large company,
Yes.
Palo Alto Networks,
Yes.
right? And you are the VP of customer success for a product where the CEO has put their bets on this product and you are in the enterprise limelight. Explain me your role. How does your role look like at customer success?
It was an interesting realization. So moving from a startup, we would be able to treat every customer with white gloves and basically do whatever it takes to them into this transition of efficiency and scaling motions.
Let's just, for the benefit of our audience, let's go back to 2016 first. You start working in Descope. Let's first describe as a baseline for the audience. What was the product at Descope?
So Descope was a security operations center orchestration product. So basically taking the actions of a SOC analyst and trying to help him with automations and repeatable automations for their mundane tasks, and also a case management for all the incidents that they're managing. The idea was basically to bring efficiency and repeatability and consistency to the SOC of a large-scale enterprise. That was Descope, and when we started, I came on board Descope, we had maybe 9 or 8 customers. So each customer was a world of itself, and we spent a lot of time with each of them. And Descope was a complicated product to deploy, so we worked a lot. And the team that we created actually was a bit unique in terms of services. We actually hired software developers as customer success team because we needed to customize, we needed to integrate, we need to build things for our customers. So that was the Descope first days.
2019, you guys get acquired. Now you have, how many customers were there when you were at?
Few hundreds.
At the time of acquisition.
Yeah, but big ones, right? Talking about the.
So you were already as a medium-sized company.
Yeah, so I had a team of maybe, I would say 40 or 50, roughly. Customer success, it was mostly engineers and architects. We were acquired, and that was an interesting process. First of all, Palo Alto has, many more customers, right? 60,000 customers. So now we're talking about addressing at scale. How do you do customer success at scale from a point where we have a customer success engineer on like 10 customers to now have hundreds of customers that sometimes you're unable to hire enough to manage them, to help them, to enable them. That was a journey that we went through.
So now you have this, right? Such a big company. You were at Descope, and I think you told me a story about Descope earlier that you used Descope product
Yes.
to automate a lot of job of customer success at Descope, right? And I think we have discussed some of this story with Rishi and in other podcasts. But I want to comment that now you come into a large organization at Palo Alto Networks, and now you have to kind of standardize your tooling, deploy another tooling, and basically, so what did you start to look for? Like what was the tool? What were you looking for? Like either tools came to you or you were looking for something?
So I think, first of all, yes, in Demisto we used Demisto to manage a lot of the customer lifecycle, because at some point we said we need an automation tool to manage the customer lifecycle, and we had Demisto, and guess what? Demisto was free, and I like free tools, so we used Demisto. And also, guess what? We had the best team in the world to deploy Demisto in our organization, so we used that too. When we came into Palo Alto Networks, obviously Demisto is a security operations center focused product. It's not your typical customer success product. So now we're talking about looking in the broader scale of Palo Alto Networks, and what do? Palo Alto Networks has other products to manage the CRM aspects, the customer success aspects, the professional services aspects, and the support aspects. So different products. What do you do there? Eventually, we had to align into one ecosystem with products that talk between themselves. We kept the Misto in that middle for some time, like talking with Salesforce, with services products, with ticketing systems. But the long-term project was to actually use a standardized customer success tool for that.
Okay, so let's come to that. And you were asked to set up a customer success tool, right?
Yes.
How much time it took for you to set that up?
That's a sore point. I mean, the tools today, if you look on the customer success, the conventional customer success tools today, at the essence rely on a customer success manager. And that had a lot of challenges, because as a public company, you now look on efficiency, you look at scale, and you just cannot hire that many customer success managers. So now I looked for a product that can automate things, and guess what? The conventional tools are not best at that.
Actually, let's stay on that point. There are two things you're talking about. One, whose job you automate. What do you automate? Essentially, the question was when you are talking about customer. First, let's go back. What does a customer success process looks like broadly? Can you explain that?
So I think it's actually to get the answer for those two questions are the same, right? Because at the end of the day, customer has a journey, right? So from the sales aspect all the way through renewals and the customer lifetime process is a journey, and that journey can be instrumented by people who talking with the customer and telling them do this, do that, you need to do that, or with automated tools. And when I'm saying what did I automate, we wanted to automate that engagement, that journey. So if I know a customer is struggling in a milestone and I need to move them to the next one, I would have a customer success manager set up a call and guide them through that with an architect or an engineer. I wanted to automate that, send them an email with help, with digital assets to help them go through that. And if they fail with that, then set up the call. That's what we really wanted to automate. On top of that, visibility. Instead of 300 customers, now you have 6,000 customers. How do you know where each customer is at, right? A lot of these tools today use Customer Success Manager to update status scores, update QBRs, and tell the tool where the customer is. But we just cannot rely on that because we don't have enough people. So we need to automate the visibility into where are the customers, where is the risk for churn, for retention.
So that's you said something interesting. So the approach, if I get it correctly, of the customer success tool that you were using was that, look, there is a journey, and I mean, there was no visualization journey, but you say a standard customer success guy should be doing these 10 tasks in the queue and keep reminding him if he has or she has finished the 10 tasks or not. irrespective of where the customer is or not. You basically believe that in first 3 months you got the customer deployed,
Yes.
and the customer success guy will be automated to remind the task. Have you done this task? If you're not, set up a meeting, do this,
Correct.
do that.
Yes.
It is not largely correlated to how the customer's situation is as it is available in the product, right?
So there's a problem with data. Every company I've been through had a problem with data. So it started with on-prem, right? How do you know where the customer is in the journey if it's on-prem? But also, how do you instrument the signals from these products to know even if they're SaaS, if they're on your cloud, how do you know where they are? So yeah, that's exactly what we needed to do. How do we know where the customer is in order to identify a risk or in order to identify an opportunity to move them forward in their journey?
Describe me with an example, like what that journey process looks like. Is it about a time-based view, or is it based on what the activity a customer has to do rather than a customer success engineer has to do?
So I'll give you an example today from Descope, right? So we monitor customers. Customers sign up to the product, right? To our service. We have SaaS, so we have all the data in our data warehouse. At some point, I need to see that the customer logged in to our console, right? And then at some point, I need to see some traffic from their users, right? Descope is an authentication platform. So basically, we're giving an app developer a way to authenticate their users. So at one point, I need to see the Descoper, our user, logging into our console. And the other point is, and usually we're talking about, few days, we want to see traffic from their application. And that's something we need to instrument, right? Because if there are 500 users now, I have to instrument that. And that is time-based, usually, right? Usually I would say, I want the user from the sign up, I want to see them within few days signed in and playing with our features. And then within, a week, I want to see some traffic. If I don't see traffic, this is a problem, right? Because it tells me either they just sign up and went away and don't really care, or they're struggling. Either way, I want to know and I need to check. So this can trigger a playbook to say, hey, do we see any errors in the database?
So you're moving away from the existing approach where you're saying, in 5 days, the user must go there, otherwise I will set up a call. You're saying, no. I am saying customer does this activity and the customer will go to the next stage of activity. In between, they may take 2-3 days or 5 days.
Yeah.
Your job is if they take action in 2-3 days, fine. If they don't take action in 5 days, then you will nudge them till the point they take this action.
Exactly.
If they don't take an action for 15-20 days, then you will involve the human to kind of figure out what the problem is, which is kind of an approach where it's inverted on time. Let's actually examine this. Why the existing customer success tool don't do this? I think you told me that I think one of the hardest part for most customer success tool is to just get the data from the product. How much on an average the time you have experienced a lot of customer success tool, how much time they generally take to just get the data?
So it depends. So either we bring them the data into their customer success tool. Let's say
what do you mean by bringing in the data?
So let's say Gainsight, right? You can integrate with Gainsight and push activity into Gainsight. That itself is a big project, okay?
Give me a sense of time, like 1 week, 2 weeks,
No,
1 month.
so it took us a month to even design the right integration with Gainsight. Yes.
Month to just design.
Yes, and then it's a big project, these things, and even then, when it highlighted the risk, it took us even longer to implement an automated email.
Wow.
Yes, because at first what it would do, it would create a CTA for the CSM, CTA call to action.
So CTA for the CSM to implement the email.
To send an email to the user to reach out, and today in the tools that I'm looking for, the last resort is the person, right? The last resort is I cannot automate that fix, that motion. I need a person, right? All the way between what's happening to when I need to have a human interaction, there are a lot of opportunities to automate, and that's what we're doing.
So you're saying that there was this notion of a customer journey existed in your mind in your documents, but it did not exist in the tool.
It took time to implement it in the tool.
You had to-
It's not the easy. Yeah, it was not. It was not easy, and I can tell you, it took us. I don't want to disclose any, numbers, but it's a lot of money PS from these companies to implement these things. So you need developers. You need work on that.
Got it. So let's go to the next topic. Let's say it's a hard, but now you talked about that you want to send emails, right? Communicate. Why it's important? Like, what's the role of these nudges and communication to the end user from a customer success perspective?
So one is, everybody is busy, right? So again, example from Descope, if I don't see traffic, then again, either they forgot about Descope, they wanted to sign up, they sign up, they wanted to check it out, but they forgot, they didn't have time, they got busy, they got distracted. So an email can say, hey, this is what you can do with Descope. So to remind them, what are the value points and what can they achieve with the product? That's one. The other one is, if they face problems, I can help them, right? A lot of people today, especially, in this day and age, they'll go Google, they'll look for different places, but if I can identify where they are struggling in, and immediately deliver them an email that tells them, hey guys, you tried to do that, this setting is missing in your project, put these settings in and you'll be good, that's gold.
What you're saying is, email is one thing, you might send them WhatsApp messages or text messages, but what you're saying is, if you knew where they were stuck and what they were supposed to do,
yes,
which it goes back to your notion of your ideal journey and in journey
correct,
where they are, then you can do a lot of those things. But if you don't have that modeling,
it's not only the modeling, it's the journey is the definition, but in order to place the customer on the journey and to identify where they are struggling with, you need to have the data. You need to have the signals from the product. Without that, it's just a paper, the journey. And then you have a person calling them with, what are you doing now? What did you do yesterday? What do you want to do tomorrow? I don't want that person. I want them to instrument that journey, and data is number one priority for that.
Got it. It's a data-driven automation.
Yes.
Got it. So let's talk about something very interesting, which has some of my colleagues, even in sales engineering as well as customer success engineering, have talked to me about that customer success is the part where most of the revenue is made by most companies. Most companies, when they start with a new account, they will buy small, and then they will grow after the customer success journey based on how you guys perform in customer success. And many a times I've heard that customer success guys are given a responsibility that you are managing a product, we want to introduce another product and we want to market to them, and you guys have the responsibility. And I sometimes wonder, you guys, your team has a responsibility from a technical enablement. You are kind of not a sales guy, but you are asked to do sales when you have taken their trust. How easy, difficult it is, and what's the value of that work?
So this is a very good point. And when you go out and look on customer success teams, there are basically two camps. The camp of a comp plan for CS and the camp for not. And I think in general, customer success should become a trusted advisor of the customer, right? And by all means should never try to pitch or sell something that they're not seeing the absolute value for the customer. And when they're coming from this place of a trusted advisor, somebody who knows the customer environment and knows the customer use cases and the value needed, then yes, we can suggest. I intentionally not using the word pitch. We can suggest product, features of a product that can increase the usage. At the end of the day, if you look on the metrics of customer success, what are they? They are deployment rates, consumption, obviously renewal and churn, but I think these are the results of consumption, adoption, value driven. And as customer success drive customer to more consumption, to more value out of products, they become trusted advisor, and they have a place to suggest more value from more products if they're allowed.
So which camp you are in? In the comp plan camp or non-comp?
I am against comp plan. I will say that.
Okay, so then let's say you are against comp plan, you want to be the suggested advisor where the customer success kind of retains that independence and the value
Yeah.
of not coming across as the guys who are out
As a
to
seller.
fleece
Yeah.
the customer by taking their trust.
Yes.
But business has its reality and it has needs. So what will you do? You will say, hey, this guy wants to have a meeting. Would you be open to have a meeting? Or I believe there is that you have a need. If you want to use, I can do it, but I'm not going to force it. I will just let you. How do you approach those things?
So my approach is usually customer success teams should be measured by these metrics that I've mentioned and not money.
Okay.
Meaning, I do want to measure and it can drive MBOs or bonuses that are monetized eventually, right? But the metrics, I believe, should be value metrics. So again, time to value, employment rates, adoption rates, renewal rates, no money on a person, which means this you can drive usage of the product without being comped by money the product makes. I think that is eventually creating a customer success that is those trusted advisor to the user.
But you also have retention targets, right? You also have retention goals. The customer should be retained eventually. I mean,
Yes.
what's the point of
Yes.
doing all of these things if the customer walks away, right? And you would try to engage them. How do you basically, how do you want the data to play a role? Because you're a data guy, you say data-driven automation. Then you would be looking for signals coming out of data to say that is what I need to do so that future incidents can be taken care of.
If you look on retention, at the end of the day, it's a result of something, right? I always said a customer will renew if they see value and will not renew if they don't see value. Now, if the time to value is 1 year, they might not renew at the end of the year because they didn't hit value. So I always say the money metrics, the revenue metrics, the renewal, the retention dollar metrics are driven by the customer success hardcore metrics. That's number one. So if you measure customer success team by these metrics, the retention will follow, I believe. It's funny because we had few areas where a customer says we don't have budget anymore. So if a customer does not have budget for your product, how do you market in the churn? Let me ask you that. Because there's few ideas out there. How do you do? Is this uncontrolled churn? Let me ask you this.
I don't know.
So if customer calls you and say, hey,
it may be a control churn because there are a few things you can do. You can basically, if you don't have a budget, and if you still need, I still can see because I have worked with the organization that you have a need.
Right.
Let me see and talk to my sales guy.
So
what I can do to retain you.
I'm going one step before. So I'm saying if the customer comes to me and tell me I don't have budget to your product, it tells me it doesn't value it like what you're pricing it, right? If the product would have bring you so much value that you would say, hey, if I'm giving away this product, I need to have 3 persons now, then they would find the budget. That's what I'm saying. So when somebody say, hey, this customer churn because they have no budget, let's mark it as uncontrolled, that's BS. That's not the right approach. The approach is to understand why didn't they see the value to budget the product.
Got it. So let me go to the last question that I have. I always come back to this. I have been a product manager. That has been something what I have done as a career now. And I ask this question to a lot of sales engineering teams, sales engineering leaders, that what can I do to make your product easier, life easier? Do product managers should be measured, given an incentive to make products simpler, so which can have an easier customer success process?
Yes. So the answer is absolutely yes. I mean, product management and product managers have a huge responsibility to make products that makes customer success redundant. Replay that. I always said, I want product managers and engineering to create a product I will be out of a job. That's the intention, because it means it's intuitive, it's easy, it's working good, and customers see great value. That's their role. Now, obviously, we all live in a realistic world, and
most enterprise products are require customization. We know.
Correct. And at the end of the day, but I still think when you look so product manager has a responsibility of the success of the product. Now, let's say I have unlimited money. I can hire as many customer success managers as I need because the product requires huge effort to deploy. You can say, yeah, that's good, it's successful, but when you look at the numbers, then efficiency and profit is not good, right? Because you hire so many customer success people to deploy the product. And at the end of the day, product managers are responsible to the success of the product, which means they also need to look on how customers utilize the product, deploy the product, what's the process, and how much effort we need to invest, whether it's the customer or the services arm.
Got it. So thanks, as you would prefer to be called. Thanks for spending the time with me. It was great having you on this show.
Thanks for having me.